Some interesting swamp type flowers that have started blooming here. And the bumblebees are so happy now. Back behind me there is an older man with 2 cocker spaniels that took an interest in following me. So they might turn up here shortly. Look at them, there's dozens of them. It's the most I've seen in a long time. The ponds are all dry, but we might expect as much as 4 inches of rain sometime in the next couple of days. I think these might be sunflowers too. God forbid any poppies grow here, otherwise they'll accuse us of being members of the Taliban or something. I am still without my bike. I have not replaced the front tire yet. Do you see these pink flowers? I don't know if they're camellias or what they are exactly. The deer family lives in here somewhere when it's dry, as it is now. Apparently the cocker spaniel behind me, Skipper, keeps wanting to come. I put up a Facebook post a few days ago, and it was sort of about all these really interesting animal experiences that have been happening to me. And I don't know if this is what, I've never actually walked out in here before. I feel a little bit like an intruder. This isn't really for human passage, as I'm being told there. I've had a lot of wonderful animal experiences back here and just in parks generally. And last Sunday, I really wish I had the camera on in time, but then again, something so special really can't be put on camera. But I was sitting in the park and watching the kids go by on the small train for the park and everything. And a few robins came pretty close to me and then were like hopping around my feet. Whatever tree or plant this is, I love it. This really flourishes whenever it gets a little bit wet, as it has in the last few days. Anyway, I was sitting there and at a park bench, picnic table style, and this male cardinal, a redbird, came down at the opposite end of the picnic table. And I just said, I can't remember exactly what I said to it, but I was like, oh, hi, and come here, and, you know, like that tongue-clicking thing. And it did. It came within 2 feet of me. Like if I had reached my arm out, I could have touched it. And it just sat there for about 90 seconds. And it was talking to me a little bit. And the main thing that struck me was how it looked me in the eye. Its eyes were very human. That's the only way to describe it. The recognition. Here's this swamp flower. And just about every one of them has a bumblebee sleeping in it. You see there. Bumblebees are quite... They recognize humans. I've noticed they communicate in a particular way, so I don't like to invade their space. But this cardinal just had some kind of humanity to it. I don't know how to put it another way. And then finally, it said something like, I know it sounds crazy to interpret what it said, but it asked me, do you have something interesting to eat? Interesting, I stress that word. It was just curious if I had something different to eat from what was available in the park. And I just kind of, my lack of response or whatever, made it move on nicely, politely. And I just thought that was so interesting. And so I put it on Facebook. And some of you, very many of you don't comment, although I know you're watching based on the view count. Some of you are friends of mine on Facebook, I think. And, in real life, I don't know which friends of mine on the ground or in places I've lived before are watching and which clips they watch. But I'm trying to achieve a few things on Facebook. I, of course, have to look out for trying to expand my own business of the tarot side of things, but it's becoming less of a monetary thing and more of a means of liberating people, I guess. And by spending money that way, I think that's part of the task completed. I can't quite tell what's going on in here. Some animals are busy, whatever they're doing. I can see some squirrels jumping around. I am somewhat peaceful, activist-minded in that I want people to be more aware of things like this, like what's happening right now. There are 130,000 people living in this town, and how many of them come out like this? This is, and I should have mentioned this earlier in the clip too, but this week in July is the coolest week probably in several decades, if not hundreds of years here, at highs of like 75, 77 Fahrenheit, which is 24, 25 degrees Celsius. And you can see we have this odd cloud cover. It's not supposed to be like this in July. But you don't see people out here connecting like they... I don't like to say the word should either, but like they might benefit from is a better way of putting it. And in posting like this cardinal story on Facebook and then asking people about their animal experiences, it's sort of what I expected. There's about a 2% response rate that's very enthusiastic, very, very informed, And it may seem like the rest is just deadpan, disbelief, whatever. But I know that the message is getting out there. And a lot of people are noticing stronger communication from animals. Stronger communication and more generosity, as I put it. The animals are here to help us connect. And that's not to say that that's their only purpose, but it's one of their purposes. I don't know if it's mice that keep scurrying off as I approach, or if it's baby rabbits. There was one night when I was riding my bike through here and a few other of the stretches of this path, and there must have been 70 rabbits I counted in just a few minutes. But they might be kind of like in a nesting phase right now. Again, I have to be super careful. There have been a couple of clips that I filmed that I didn't show, but I found some ticks climbing over me, and they are damn near impossible to kill. And they have this particular structure where they can bore themselves into your skin. And I'm not super familiar with Lyme disease, but you can get very, 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 very sick. And I'm sure that I've been bitten by some this year because of the type of bites I have and how long they've lasted. Talking months here. So I have to watch it a little bit. As you can see, I'm not doing barefoot right now, but I definitely will do that again. The benefits are real, but even Native Americans wore moccasins around here. Holy crap. Isn't that something? I want to zoom in. They're keeping patrol, and yet they know that I have the utmost respect for them. Don't you guys? You have helped before. On the phone at work the other day, I'm in a sales position for everybody, and we get publications of magazines and steadily here. But one thing that's come up, in spite of the regular job-related stress, is that while it can be stressful, I don't feel ethically compromised in what I'm selling. And I was having this conversation with a woman on the phone. I don't know who she was. If it was Maine or Maryland, I don't know. We get calls from all over the world, inbound. And I was just saying how really it's no problem because there isn't anything that's really going to morally compromise me in what I'm selling or doing. And she tear up and started crying on the phone, which some of my other agents or coworkers think that that's really weird because they don't have this kind of experience. I just totally understood where she was coming from. It's just nice to believe that there is some fairly above board business activity taking place and there is a shift happening. And I just thanked her, whatever, and then I felt the back of my chair, which I had not been touching, and it was just and sometimes if you have these kind of experiences, religious or slightly like that, you will something above your head or above your forehead for a long time. And this happened. It's back behind me too, like some kind of ascension moment was happening. And it's just very hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. They don't. I think they're mockingbirds, but I think I'll leave the area because they don't feel comfortable with me here. Kind of dropping off. So it's all sort of in the day in the life of the animal kingdom that we are a part of. It makes you wonder what the motivation is to make us think we're not part of that. And to Rose, I do apologize to go there again, but I think that whole Angelina Jolie debacle has a lot to do with that. It was what disturbed me about that. It's not her part in it. Of course, she can do what she wants. And that was her judgment call. But the motivation and the organization behind it is very, very, very dark. Because basically it is rejection of biology and nature in favor of something that is labeled as prevention. And That is not what that was about at all. To her, maybe it was. And to many who may choose to follow that option, it surely is. But, no, I see that as a suppression of self-awareness and connecting with that cadence or rhythm that life has. Very, very bizarre. Oh, another news. I don't even know where to go with all that. I feel as though I'm just kind of watching things happen from a distance to a degree. I feel very comfortable materially and stability-wise. I have no real serious concerns right now. The company has asked me to they've asked me to represent them in part in our Pennsylvania fair in September, and so I'll be flown over there pardon me, for a long weekend. It's sort of a test to see what I can do, I guess. But while this is fantastic news, it does scare me a little bit because now I very much fear entanglement and not being able to move around. I'm sure that's what's kept me single to a degree. Because it hasn't been lack of financial foresight or anything like that. It's been not wanting to get mixed up with things and people and all that. Though, from a distance, I like all that. All these wildflowers appear to be more or less dead. I hope they have another round before the year's out. Not natural for July, I'm telling you. Not at all. But one thing that concerns me is it's not a proper retail job, but it's related to that. We do have the holiday rush, and it's going to be a very intense time. By staying for this fair, I'm somewhat obligating myself to stay through the end of the year, because it would look bad on a resume to leave during a peak time, and it could reflect poorly with references and things too, and I do not want to put my coworkers through that. The immediate management, because it's a weird situation. The amount of work that people who are working do is kind of extraordinary, and while there are so many people out of work, not as many as before, but so many still, it's really hard to find people that can mentally map things together in a way that doesn't create a lot more work for existing staff. And the types of demands that are made, I mean, nobody's perfect at their job, and I'm certainly not, but I catch people writing and doing things at work that just are not correct, like spelling, explaining things correctly, and all that is just weird. And oddly, they don't get punished for that so much as the person who does somewhat know what's going on, but I think everybody watching knows how that goes. Not that I've ever had a true reprimand anywhere. It's all been sort of my own pressures making an issue out of it. There's some kind of a Blackbird Coven meeting over there. I have to thank slow motion for drawing my attention to crow conventions and also their ability to help us. See? Well, there isn't really anything to tell. And I mean, actually, this was all fairly rehearsed, but I'm just sort of doing these random clips for the time being. My cards have consistently said that next month, August 2013, is when things will really change radically for me, but I'm not really sure how just yet. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a good weekend. Bye.